The reason that we did this series is because amidst all the kind of bluster of Trump and the attention-grabbing headlines, the indictments, everything that everybody knows what he's about, we felt that no one had really kind of forensically gone into his policies for 2024. Everybody remembers 2016. Obviously, the banner was build the wall. Who's going to pay for it? Mexico, we're going to pay for it. Felt that he hadn't had much scrutiny yet on stuff that, he's got quite substantive policy this time around. And so I feel it's a 3-part series that we've published this week. And we published so far taking a look at the kind of headline things that he wants to do.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story is going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with managing editor Chris Irvine.
Hi.
Chris, thanks for being here. So the Washington Examiner this week did a series about Trumpism, the policies that Donald Trump is running on in 2024, and whether that's a viable platform for this cycle. Tell us a little bit about that series and whether you agree that his platform is viable.
Sure, thanks. I think the reason that we did this series is because amidst all the kind of bluster of Trump and the attention-grabbing headlines, the indictments, everything that everybody knows what he's about, we felt that no one had really kind of forensically gone into his policies for 2024. Everybody remembers 2016. Obviously, the banner was build the wall. Who's going to pay for it? Mexico, we're going to pay for it. Felt that he hadn't had much scrutiny yet on stuff that, he's got quite substantive policy this time around. And so I feel it's a 3-part series that we've published this week. And we published so far taking a look at the kind of headline things that he wants to do. And some of them, they're attention grabbing, they're eye catching, but we've delved into kind of how realistic they are, how workable they are, and whether he, as president, really kind of has the mechanism to do so. And we found that in a couple of instances, for instance, when he's talking about law and order, he wants to execute drug dealers and things of that nature. He might not actually have the capacity to do that. So it's a really interesting, in-depth look at everything that he wants to accomplish, and it's a very real reality that he could well be president in 2025.
Are there significant differences between his 2024 platform and what he ran on and then governed as in 2016 and beyond?
Well, I think there's some similarities. He was obviously interested in trade wars back in 2016 when it comes to China. It sounds like he wants to expand on that. I think he has been kind of reluctant on the campaign to kind of talk about the wall. And I think part of that is that the wall maybe didn't get finished on his watch. Now, he could argue that he only had 1 term. He didn't have the full time to do so. Mm-hmm. And maybe he wants to finish the job. But I have noticed that he has been less bombastic about that this time around, maybe more focusing on border security as a whole.
Switching gears a little bit, Senator Mitt Romney surprised a lot of people this week, announcing that he would not seek re-election in Utah in this next cycle. He cited as part of the reason why he isn't going to do so the fact that he'll be 80 by the time he would finish another term. Does that sort of throw the spotlight in an uncomfortable way back on Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell, the old leaders in both parties?
Sure. I think it was a really interesting announcement by Mitt, and I would say I think Mitt's 76. He feels like a young 76 to me.
Looks great.
He looks great. But I think he's always been quite cognizant of where he's at. And sure, age is obviously a big issue. We talk about it with Joe Biden all the time. I see, interestingly, that Trump has tried to, who will also is getting up there, has tried to say it's not so much age about Joe Biden. It's more that he's incompetent. We've talked a lot about Mitch McConnell over the last few weeks, Dianne Feinstein. And I think there is a legitimate argument to be had that Romney is stepping away at the right time, and maybe it will lead to others to kind of reconsider. But you have to take into account the fact that Romney was a little bit of a black sheep within the Republican Party. And a lot of stuff that's kind of come out in the last couple of days about, how he stood up against Trump when it came to impeachment and things like that he really didn't kind of curry many favors with the Republican Party, and maybe he just felt that he was too isolated and he simply couldn't go on.
The corollary to the concerns about Joe Biden's age are Kamala Harris's, lack of experience and unpopularity in the event that Joe Biden were unable to continue carrying out his duties for his age or for whatever reason. Speaker Pelosi's not endorsing Kamala Harris. David Ignatius in the Washington Post wrote about how Biden and Harris need to go. There needs to be a whole new slate for the Democrats. Is she that big of a liability? Is she a huge concern here? Is she why the age concern can't really reach its logical conclusion that Joe Biden should resign?
It's a great question. I think that she's obviously been disappointing in that role, and it's a bit of a, poison chalice being the vice president. You kind of are the spare part in some ways, and she certainly tried to be useful, but it's never really landed for whatever reason. And I think that does increase the concerns about Biden's age. My question would be, who's the alternative right now? I mean, everybody talks about Gavin Newsom being an alternative. He's certainly not indicated that he wants it right now. I would have thought that he would much rather have a clean shot at it in 2028. So, we can all kind of play that game of Biden and Harris need to go, but, what's the alternative and when's it going to happen? Because sooner or later, we're not too far away from Iowa. So then what?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's a little too late running on a runway.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
You can get more from Chris and the rest of the political team at washingtonexaminer.com.